What's up internet, Kevin here with TLD bringing you our review of God of War Ascension exclusively for the PS3. Now as I said back in the Tomb Raider review, prequels are a really big thing right now, although in God of War's case it's mainly because after 3 there really wasn't anyone left for Kratos to rip in half angrily. This particular installment takes place with a still human Kratos shortly after falling out with Ares, and focuses on his struggles to break his blood oath with him by killing the 3 Furies, making it the first game chronologically in the entire series. This is also the first game in the series to have a multiplayer mode, which is met with a bit of skepticism for 2 main reasons. First off, most series that have been going on this long and add a multiplayer mode this late are normally rushed or tacked on, like in the case of Tomb Raider. On the other hand, it's not very common for action-adventure games in the style of God of War to have multiplayer modes, and there's very few examples, especially for competitive. Starting with the single-player mode, this game honestly comes across as the weakest in the series. Not necessarily a terrible game, just not nearly as engaging or as memorable as the rest. Base controls and character setup are pretty much the same as past titles. Kratos hits things with chain blades, uses cool finishers to get health and experience, and occasionally has to do some quick time events to make sure a boss stays dead. The 2 largest changes in this one are Kratos' ability to use different types of elemental magic, as well as sub-weapons. Magic offers damage bonuses against the right enemies, as well as modified special attacks, and in addition also has powerful charge-up rage attacks and area of effect spells that have to be used sparingly to conserve magic points. While sub-weapons work similarly to those in the Castlevania series, where you get special attack options like a hammer or throwing javelins that either have limited uses, or can be thrown to have some strong single-hit effect. Kratos will also over time gain other special items that can be used on cooldown for both platforming and combat situations, including a medallion that can move time forward or back for an object, and a token that creates a clone of Kratos to take his place for holding switches and helping out in combat. All of these abilities can be upgraded using experience, offering new moves, increased damage, and decreased cooldowns, and overall makes Kratos focus on just using his chain blades in combat, but with a larger moveset than usual thanks to the elemental options. While the core aspects of the game are solid and make a good base for it, the main problem with the single-player mode is the campaign itself. This is by far the shortest God of War that's come out yet, taking me only about 7.5 hours to beat on a normal playthrough. It's also overall one of the easiest, with some of the most simple boss fights around, and not too tough regular encounters with one exception near the end of the game, that took 3 or 4 tries to get past. The game autosaves often enough to where there's never that much ground to retake, and health and MP restoration chests are practically everywhere, as well as easily findable health and MP upgrades. The game also features a ton of fights that make use of their trademark cinematic fighting stages, where everything is moving around you, and while these look pretty, they come up way too often, a lot of them making it almost impossible to see where Kratos is, forcing you to rely on just blindly slashing until everything's dead around you. As I said, the core gameplay itself is solid enough to make it enjoyable, but with a playtime under 10 hours and a storyline that just feels unimportant overall, I can't help but walk away a little disappointed from my adventures. Now the multiplayer mode really presents me with a conflict of feelings. On the one hand, it's much better than I anticipated and is actually a lot of fun. On the other hand, I can't help but feel it's responsible for the lack of content in the single-player game. In it, players take the role of a gladiator who pledges his service to one of 4 Greek gods: Zeus, Poseidon, Ares, or Hades. The god you choose to worship affects what special skills and spells you gain, as well as some cosmetic effects on some of your weapons. Alongside which god you worship, players also choose one of 3 fighting styles: hammer, swords, and spears, as well as specific weapon and armor choices that affect your stats and appearance. Fights play out as a team or free-for-all melee, where players fight and kill each other using combos, carefully timed parries to knock enemies off balance, and heavy attacks that break parries for players focused on just defense. While I wish there were a couple more fighting style options to choose from outside of the 3, combining that with which god you worship leads to a healthy number of different player options, and can make free-for-alls interesting when each person uses a different combo. It's not the best multiplayer mode in the world, but it's a strangely original way of fusing action-adventure, RPGs, and competitive multiplayer into one, and is great for just wanting to play a single match to kill some time. I find myself actually liking it, almost more than the single-player mode. I just can't help but feeling that both of them suffered by trying to be the same game, with the single player being as short as it is, and multiplayer not having enough variety of weapons and armor. Overall, God of War Ascension left me with more or less just of a lukewarm feeling, really. Their base tools are here for a good single and multiplayer game, but there's just not a whole lot of content to either one to make either feel complete. It's not terrible, it's just minimal, and ends up leaving one of the weakest impressions out of the entire God of War series. Well, that's our review of God of War Ascension. If you want to check the game out for yourself, make sure to check out the link in the description for pricing and availability, and if you have yet to do so, make sure to subscribe to our channel to stay up to date on all of our latest reviews and unboxings, as well as follow me on Twitter at TLD_Kevin. If you enjoyed this vid, make sure to like it, as it is the easiest way to help out the channel and is always appreciated. As always guys, I'm Kevin for TLD, thanks for watching.